Hi, I'm Brian Russell, and welcome back. Glad you're here. I want to give a couple of tips for how to read the Psalms formationally, whether you're going to preach from them, teach from them, or simply use them in your own life. One of the critical pieces that you need to do with any text, but in the Psalms in particular, is allow it to really move into our own lives in our head, in our hearts, and even in our hands. And I want to give three questions that I like to use myself that help me to bring the powerful messages of these Psalms into my own life. And by the way, this works with any prayer that you'll find anywhere in Scripture. So this will work with the Lord's Prayer, say the prayer of Nehemiah, but in particular the Psalms. One of the things that we have to remember when we're reading the Psalms is that the Psalms are the prayers that come from ancient Israel. I like to call the book of Psalms the prayer book for God's missional people. These are prayers for the journey through life. And so a couple of questions that we need to keep in mind fundamentally is this one. How does this psalm or how does this prayer teach me to pray? Because you can read the Psalms in a lot of different ways. So we can look at their genres. You can look at them for messianic movements towards the New Testament, but at their essence, they're prayers. And so we always have to ask ourselves, how does this psalm teach me to pray? Secondly, the Psalms have sort of expectations for their readers. Many of us struggle with some of the violence in the Psalms or even some of the stances that the Psalms take. So, for example, when you read the Psalms, there's always the righteous and the wicked. And of course, the psalmist always considers himself or herself to be among the righteous, right? And so, a second question that I like to do that brings me closer to the text is this: what kind of person does the psalm assume that its reader is? What kind of person does this psalm assume that its reader is? So in other words, what does it look like? What would the ideal reader of this psalm look like? What would be the characteristics? What kind of life would this person do? What would be their location in life? So we want to identify with that, because a lot of times we can misappropriate text because we miss sort of the foreignness of the text. So what kind of person does this psalm actually assume that its reader is, or even that I am, since I'm the one reading the text? And the last thing would be this one. I think this is the question that really pushes us to grow. What would it take for me to become a person who could pray this prayer with integrity? What would it look like? What kind of person would I need to become to be able to pray this prayer with integrity? So those are three quick questions. How does this psalm teach us to pray? What kind of person does this psalm assume its reader is? And what would it look like for me to become a person who can pray this psalm with integrity? These questions have helped me, and I hope that they will help you too in your reading of the Psalms. Let me know if you have any questions.